If your videos look flat and you've been avoiding editing them because motion graphics is a nightmare, I promise you that struggle is now obsolete. Turns out the best graphics on YouTube no longer need a designer or an animator. All you have to do is just describe what you want. So I'm going to break down the 2 ways to get started with this today using just single prompts and how to pick the right ones so that you're not wasting time. If you're new here, this is data-driven content where I find systems and patterns to build your authority on YouTube, save you time, and remove the guesswork. Okay, so the first way is Claude AI plus a special tool called Remotion. I don't know if you know this, but you can now just describe what you want. Claude AI writes the code and it turns it into a real animation with no timeline and no keyframes needed. Now, as we can see here, you will need to actually have access to Claude and it costs around $20 to $30 a month, depending on where you're located. There's 3 steps we need to get through in order to use this first method. Step number 1 is downloading the right tools. Not only do you need Claude AI, you are also going to need this special tool called video use. The purpose of this is it basically trims out the bad takes. The third tool you will need is called FFmpeg. Now, I know it sounds complicated, but I'm actually going to share the exact instructions of how you can get that on the screen. It's super easy. And this is just about letting your computer read and edit the files. The last tool that you will need is called Remotion, or in other words, hyperframes. They are basically from the same company. Hyperframes is the actual tool that makes the animations. So now that you have your tools, what is the second step? All you have to do is open Claude Desktop and simply just start chatting to Claude Code. You can see up here on the top left, there is normal chat, there is co-work, and there is also an option called code. The reason you want to select code is because that allows Claude to get access to the files on your computer, which is what it needs to do in order to complete the task in hand. So as you can see here, all I had to do is just paste in the links for video use and hyperframes, which I didn't already have downloaded. And I just asked it, hey, can you please get these GitHub repos so that I can create animations for my raw footage? It then asked me, okay, do I actually have FFmpeg installed? And so I actually wasn't sure if I had it installed or not. Turns out I personally had already installed it for another video. So I simply just asked it, please help me check. That's the cool thing about Claude. You don't need to have any technical skills. You can just say, hey, can you check my files to see if I have everything ready? From there, I was good to go. I then just said, okay, I'm going to put in an MP4 file, and if you could just please remove the bad takes and the silences. Okay, so it will eventually say, yep, okay, all done, all good to go. In this process, admittedly, it's going to keep prompting you and saying, hey, are you sure you want to give me permission? Do you want to give me permission for one time or every time? So you really do have to sit at your desk and constantly be there to keep accepting it. Otherwise, you'll be going back and forth for a while. Once it is done, it is going to save what's called .xml file. Now, don't worry, it doesn't have to be scary. It's going to save this in the folder that you asked to create. In fact, if we scrolled back up, you would see I basically said, hey, can we create a folder for where I want all of these animations and files to be? So you can see here that I have a folder called Claude Editing Studio, and then in the edited output, it has got the .xml file for me. If you want to see whether it did the rough cut correctly and it removed all the bad takes and the silences, all you have to do is open up your editing software of choice, go up the top left, click File, and then Import, and import that very specific file, and it will bring in the footage and it will bring in the edit, and you can basically just check it over yourself. So the next part that I did was, since I had the rough cut ready to go, I then basically just started pasting in my own prompt. The way I came up with this prompt was I took the exact script that I was saying in the introduction of this video. I sat down, I obviously filmed it in order to use this as test footage, but I fed in the exact wording and I gave it to Claude and I said, this is the wording, please help me come up with a prompt. Once I came up with that prompt, I said, please apply this prompt where we can turn the words into more visual animations. And as you can see here, it has successfully exported all of the animations. All it is saying here is that we can open it in Premiere Pro and we can drag the .webm files onto the clip as they have a transparent background. Now, the funny thing about this is I forgot to actually ask it, hey, can you just export it as one MP4? I don't want to have to go into Premiere Pro to mess around with it. That way you don't even need keyframes. You don't need to be messing around with the software at all. It is literally just prompt and play. It's insane. But to give you an idea of what it does look like if you just export the animations, if we come up into the folder we've made, we can go here into edited output, and this is an example of some of the animations that is created. So it even took the liberty here in the beginning to make them smoothly move into the screen. Now, sure, you'll probably want to spend a little bit of time getting the colors right, the positioning, the sizing, everything on screen so that you can see it well. But I think this is pretty impressive because this otherwise would take so long. This would take hours, sometimes days, to come up with animations for a video. So let me show you another example of what it chose to export. So you can see down here, I asked it to create like a little, I know it's a little bit hard to see because of the UI at the bottom of my screen here, but you can see it's got a nice, beautiful little chatbot where it's saying, create me beautiful animations, right? I can use that in my intro when I'm talking about prompting. So now that I've shown you how to implement this first method, what are some incredible animations that you can come up with? Because this is really the secret sauce, knowing exactly how to apply this properly. Well, the first one could be coming up with travel maps and showing that you're going from point A to point B, kind of like a Johnny Harris video. Another option is counting up numbers. Maybe you're creating swipe transitions or even a leaderboard comparing different people or elements. It could be a little like and subscribe. And lastly, the final piece of advice that I have for you for this particular method is the more specific you can be in your prompts, the better it will be. A little extra bonus point too is that you can go onto Pinterest, you can look up UI or you can look up inspirational images and you can feed it to Claude and it will actually use that in its stylization of the animations, which is pretty damn cool. Okay, now for the second way, Claude design. The unfortunate reality is even though this saves you hours and days of work, animations with Claude can still take time to prompt it correctly. What if you just want gorgeous branding and graphics in your exact brand style? That is where Claude design comes in. Drag in a reference, get matching visuals, and boom, you've got a gorgeous looking, sometimes even animated slideshow that you can present in your videos that saves you so much time. All you have to do is go to claude.ai.design. As you can see up here, I dragged in a little image I have that I normally use in my YouTube videos. It looks very much like Windows 95, I think it is. A very like kind of Y2K aesthetic. And so all I did was I just asked it, hey, can you make me a slideshow based off of this design? I also gave it my introduction script again, just so it knew what words I was referencing to and could give me more of an accurate visualization of what I'm trying to represent here. Now, I actually have gone through 3 iterations and I want to show you the first one because it's not going to get it perfectly right. The first one though still looks pretty goddamn gorgeous. Like this looks very accurate to the clear style that I have in my videos, the way I have different windows, and it's very accurate as to what I was saying. However, it still just looked quite sloppy. So sure enough, all I did was do a little bit more prompting. I shared some images of inspiration and I told it, you know, don't use these colors, but help this improve the slideshow and improve the wording and make it a little bit more visual. And sure enough, it came out with version 2. So I actually chose to drag in this image here, but you can see it's kind of bringing it to life a whole lot more. I think it does struggle to immediately put images off the web. It requires you to, at least so far in my experience, to drag and drop your own images. But you can see here on the third slide, it kind of just wasn't really lining up with what I'm trying to show. There was still way too many words popping up on each screen. Wasn't really a fan of it just putting in words for the sake of putting in words, but it did do some pretty cool stuff. So sure enough, all I had to do was just prompt it a little bit more and then we got to version 3. So version 3, it looks a lot more clear. Okay, there's a lot less wording and we finally were able to just make something that's really nice and clear and beautiful and easy to comprehend, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Okay, this took me about 10 minutes of my time. If I were to animate this would take hours of my time. Okay, so with all this said, the real unlock isn't one tool. It's knowing when to animate and when to just design. There's no one right answer, but I hope this made a difference in your YouTube production and your branding journey. If you want more like this, please consider supporting me by subscribing. And one of the most important things that I love is actually just hearing what you would love to see next down in the comments below. If you're looking for support growing your channel, also please consider checking out the link in description to work with me. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video. And if you liked this, you would love this video right here, because similarly, it's going to save you a lot of time.